Welcome to another episode of The Limit Podcast with Matt Gibson, your host here. Co-host over there is Phil Hunt. Phil, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm tired of this damn Indiana weather, though. I can tell you that.
Yeah, that ain't no lie.
So it's been a rough patch around here. Got even more rain today. So it's been a tough spring for us here. But I know one of the hot topics in all of bass fishing right now is co-anglers and really the lack of co-anglers. And I think you guys are even seeing it kind of in some of the local circuits, aren't you?
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Just an overall shortage of them.
Yeah, you can't hardly get one for a BFL.
Yeah. Yep. So
they don't want to fish with scopers.
Yeah.
There you go. I said it, but I don't know how many people I asked, and that was the answer from every single one of them. They don't want to fish with a scoper.
Yep. So today we have a guest on that's been on your pro staff for, longer than I've been around anyways, I think. Great guy, great fisherman, a co-angler, Mr. Rob Earickson. Rob, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks.
How's it going? How's it going in your world?
Wet just like yours. Waiting for it to warm up finally, but don't like it's gonna be this week.
Yeah, it's been tough. I know. Saw you got the chance to get out a little bit today, though.
Yeah, I got out for a little bit. Threw some top waters today, and I did pretty well on the walking P and the crazy ace.
Nice.
That crazy ace is a different lure. For those of you who've seen it, it looks strange. It's the weirdest looking bait, but it catches them.
Yeah, where do you sell most of those, Phil? Is that mostly a Florida deal, or is that kind of all over deal? The crazy.
No, kind of an all over deal. I sell a lot of them to guys in Alabama that during the shad spawn, and it's designed to be twitched. It's a prop bait. But a lot of them guys in Alabama, like on Lay Lake and Logan Martin, I sell a bunch of them, and those guys just throw it out and reel it in on the surface. It just kind of wobbles on the surface a little. That's how they fish it. And I'm like, no, it's designed. It's supposed to be twisted. And they're like, no, it ain't. You reel it in. So I just say, yeah, that's right. You reel it in.
Yeah. It's Rob and I were talking before you jumped on. We were talking about the crazy ace and that's a bait that I was like, at first I popped it and then I started swimming it. You kind of get bites doing a lot of different things with it. So,
yeah, I'm going to tell you, it might be, I think it's one of the best the best topwater baits ever made for like St. Clair and Erie. Like when the mayflies are hatching, especially, you throw it in a bone white, and I mean, you can really catch them. And back when Jimmy Pickett was still with us, we would go up there like when the mayflies hatch the end of May, and we would have a blast and get a lot of good pictures and stuff of them big smallies eating that crazy ace. It's a really, really good smallmouth topwater.
Yeah. Well, Rob, you're here in Central Indiana, fisherman, kind of converting you a little bit to a kayak angler, but how long have you been doing the co-angling deal? How long have you been doing that?
Somewhere around 15 years, mainly BFLs, MLF now, and some IBFs the last couple of years. I think I've got like a little over 80 BFLs. So
how many a year are you averaging then? Because you're fishing multiple divisions too, right?
Yeah, I was fishing the Hoosier and the Buckeye division the last couple of years.
But so you did the Carolinas and stuff.
Yeah, I fished Carolinas. I fished Shenandoah. I've jumped in on some on the Potomac and the James, and I'm from the East Coast. It's when the regionals were going to be down there, I try and cherry pick some tournaments to try and have a better finish down there.
Yeah. So with that, I mean, what's your experience been as a co-angler, and kind of over the years? What have you seen that's really changed from your perspective in the back of the boat?
Well, I can tell you, there's a lot more good co-anglers now than there was 15 years ago. Let's say 15 years ago, I could cash a check with one fish. That's not happening anymore. You're having to have 3 or 4 fish, if not closer to a limit. I've had a lot of good experiences. I've had a few, I can count on one hand, of boaters that we just didn't get along for whatever reason. So, but like Phil said, front facing sonar. I'm not fishing MLF this year. I'm just fishing the IBF. MLF seems not to like co-anglers, in my opinion. They changed the structure to a 3 fish limit. They made a lot of changes I just didn't like. So, like you said, I bought a kayak and I'm having fun on the kayak. I have not fished a kayak turn yet. I may.
We'll get you there. We'll get you.
It's just fun right now. It's
Yeah.
it's nice. I like being the guy making the bad decisions now. So that's yeah.
Is that one of the biggest struggles as a co-angler is not having a whole lot of say of where you're going, or is that kind of top on your list, or there are other things that also play into it?
So I don't practice. I don't pre-fish for tournaments because too many times I practice and then caught him in practice, and then you go to the lake and the guy does 180 degrees opposite. If you're fishing shallow, they want to go deep, and then the whole time thinking, well, we're doing the wrong thing. We should be on the bank, and so I'm already irritated. So yeah, that stinks, but you just have to learn how to adapt. And the good thing is we fish the
probably
same
the
bodies.
worst thing.
Right, or it's just on top property.
How often have you drawn out with a guy that's the boater, and then you get there and he said, "Oh, I didn't practice either. I have no idea what's going on."
I've had a lot better experiences than that than when people have fished, practice and said I'm on them. That's the last thing I want to hear.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because we all know the fish aren't in the same place. Indiana's a strange place to fish sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're there the day before doesn't mean they're going to be there tomorrow. So it's nice when sometimes it's nice just to go fish, and just do what's in front of you, not figure out what try and do what happened the day before.
Yeah. I had a big dose of that a few weeks ago down in Brookville, so I know exactly what you're saying. So, but some of the things, you mentioned having to adjust to what the guy in the front of the boat has. Do you think overall? Do you think a co-angler, fishing co-angler, has made you a better fisherman and kind of helped you with some learning curve on some techniques too?
Yeah. So when I first started doing this, I threw crankbaits. That was it. I lived and died with a crankbait. It's great for Phil because I lose a lot of baits too. So, but yeah, you have to evolve. You have to learn how to. The more techniques that you're proficient at, the better off you'll be. Especially since you don't know where you're going to go, who you're going to draw. So, yeah, you definitely have to learn. The boaters have gotten better. I mean, with the aid of the electronics, they're on fish more now, but it just doesn't always benefit the co-angler. But I'm not going to complain about that. That's why I like fishing the river. The river is a target-rich environment, and there's always going to be fish to be caught. So, yeah,
I like the river too. Same for a boater is if you get beat on the river, you probably didn't get beat by the technology. You got beat by the fishermen.
Yeah. Well, I grew up fishing creeks, wading creeks as a kid, and it makes more sense. These reservoirs, I was out on Eagle Creek 2 weeks ago, and the shad spawn was crazy. I mean, they were up on the banks. I mean, they're flipping out of the water. I couldn't find a fish. They had to have been there somewhere. went to the opposite bank literally with no bait, and I found fish, and they were probably about 8 foot of water off the bank, and I'm going, well, why aren't you over there with where the food at? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Am
so
I the
kind of
only
from
one
your
that thinks?
Go ahead, Phil.
No, I was just gonna say, am I the only one that thinks the shad spawn bite might be a little overrated?
Yeah.
I tend to agree with you. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like one of those things where you could go and you could chase it around, and man, it could really mess up your whole day, and kind of mess up your whole flow of a tournament. I like to, me personally, I've always liked to do a few milk runs and kind of figure out and lay out. I'm gonna be here then. I'm gonna be there then. But man, that shad spawn can throw you way off if you're not careful.
It's such an early bite because the best shad spawn fishing is at night, not in the daytime.
Yeah.
You can crush them at night during the shad spawn, but unless it's raining, it doesn't last that long in the mornings. And by the time we launch and all that, sometimes it's over before you even get to make the first cast.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, Eagle Creek is so thick. It was probably 10
10
o'clock in the morning. They were still up on the banks. I mean, and they were just crazy. But I couldn't catch it.
Was it cloudy and rainy or sunny or?
Oh, it was sunny.
Really?
Sunny. Yeah, they're on the wind-blown bank in the sun. So, it's Indiana.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, you say boaters are getting better, and co-anglers are getting better as well. I would like to kind of hear Phil's thoughts. I know Phil, you fish a lot of the same tournaments. Kind of what are you seeing from co-anglers that you see now that you didn't see 10, 15 years ago?
I've really been pretty lucky. I've always had pretty nice co-anglers. A lot of mine have done really well out of the back, and I made friends with a lot of them. But one thing that I've noticed seems like for the last 5 years, I get two kinds. I get a guy who don't know and don't care, like a guy I had a couple years ago, who sat on his butt on the back deck and talked to his wife all day on the phone, which you're not allowed to do. Or I get guys that are like super, super competitive, and then I feel pressured during the day because they're like constantly like pushing you, and like they're casting right up on where you're throwing, and they're like really, really competitive. And I think maybe I'd rather have the guy who sits on his butt and talks on the phone all day.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you kind of feel an expectation that you're almost guiding that day, that you have to get them on fish at times?
Well, no, but here's what I mean by this, and I'm not trashing co-anglers, because I've made really good friends with a bunch of my co-anglers, but I've had guys where I flip on a stump and he flips right on the same damn stump, and here I get my bait in there without hardly making a ripple, and he tosses his in there and it's the biggest splash ever while my bait's still on it. That's what I mean. That it seems like a lot of them are getting a more competitive maybe, and they're like pushing right on, and like if a co-angler throws on a spot, I would never throw on that spot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or I don't want to skip a jig in somewhere and set it in there real quiet, and someone else throws a 3/4 ounce spinner bait right on top of my bait, and it sounds like you threw a rock in the water.
Right. Yeah.
But
So
overall, that's what I see, is just that they're more competitive, and
a
a
little
lot of
more.
them a lot of them should be in the front of the boat too. They're really pretty good fishermen.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot more aggressive than what you saw maybe a few years ago.
Seems like. What do you think about that, Rob? Do you hear that from people?
Yeah, and I've done this a long time. I know a lot of the boaters now, but the ones that don't know me, I'll tell them, hey, look, I'm here to have fun. I'm the easiest going co-angler you're going to get. I don't, it is what it is. I don't expect to catch a limit. I'd like to, obviously. But I look at it as I'm trying to help my boater. If he's going to be throwing a top water, like Lake of the Ozarks, guy was throwing a buzzbait under the cables. So I was skipping the docks with jigs and beavers. I try and help out. So we're not throwing the same baits. We can cover more water, and if we find a bite that they're just knocking the snot out of, then we can just fish the same pattern. But other than that, I just let them know I'm here to have fun. And I try and be, absolutely like you're saying, you got to be respectful. You can't cast on your boater spots, and I try
And they
and
don't all do that. I hope I didn't make it sound that way.
no, no, no,
They
no,
don't all do that, but I've had some that would like throw over my line like constantly throughout the day, and like it can get pretty frustrating.
yeah, that's why I just go over the expectations. Especially so netting a fish. Do you want the net? Do you not want the net? I'll let the boater know. Unless it's got a treble hook on it, I'm probably boat flipping it, unless it's a big one, which we all know that that's not my specialty. I like the small fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, but that's the skill set too, Rob. You have to be pretty damn good to catch 7-inchers. I'm just saying.
It does take talent. I am
Yeah.
impressed sometimes, let me tell you.
it's I wish I could hone in on the bigger fish bite, but at least I'm catching something. Keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
You know what? One thing before we go too far that I want to say, and this is something that really bothers me when I'm thumbing through, like for the last year or two, all you see on Facebook is all the negativity about scoping. And look, I don't like scoping and what it's done to the tackle industry because it has really hurt the tackle industry. And if anybody that wants to get on here and say it doesn't, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't sell baits for a living. It has hurt the tackle industry, and you cannot make a living selling jig heads and minnows. Like the guys that are really good at scoping don't need all that tackle. But so what I'm getting at is you hear all this negativity, right? Like all these people who hate scoping. Well, then you'll have co-anglers get on there and they say when they draw a scoper, like I see co-anglers pretty regular, they'll make a comment like, I don't get the fish when I get a scoper, blah, blah, blah. Now, look, they pay their money too, and they work. It costs them to go the same way as it does the guys in the front of the boat. And I cannot stand it when I see boaters get on there and start making their comment about how we don't need co-anglers. They can shut up and buy their own boat, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I can't believe that anybody that fishes would get on social media and say that crap about a co-angler, because I'm going to tell you, there's not very many professional anglers in this world. There's not even 200, I don't think, total, maybe, because you got guys that fish both tours. So there's not 200 true professional anglers, maybe, or not many more in the country. The rest of us are just there to have fun and be regional fishermen. And I'm going to promise these guys this much: without those co-anglers, and I might, maybe this is not good for my business, and I'm going to make some people mad. Without co-anglers, we're not going to have BFLs and IBFs to fish. It ain't going to happen, because how are they going to police everybody out there when you've got every Tom, Dick, and Harry in a boat out there by himself fishing? The organizations will go broke. You have to have co-anglers. So I don't know why the boaters, and I'm not saying it's all boaters, but it's a lot of boaters get on there and make these comments about the co-anglers. But if I was a co-angler and I got in their boat, I wouldn't go out of my way to help them at all.
Well, you also have to take into account the up and coming generations. Not every high school kid is going to be fortunate enough to start on the boat side. So, to get introduced on the co-angler side, so they can see what it's about, and the learning curve that goes along with it.
Exactly.
You're lessening your participants, which is going to kill you in the long run, because once a generation of boats are gone, who's going to replace them? Because there's no co-anglers. There's nobody coming up. It's almost like being like a AAA baseball. You got to work your way up.
System.
Yeah, exactly. And they're struggling. I'll be interested to see. I'm not anti front facing. So it's also, that's not the way I want to fish. I like targeting.
Yeah, and I don't want this episode to sound like we're beating up live scope or just beating up boaters either, because I don't mean it that way at all. But I just hate seeing that. Look, we need co-anglers. Probably some of the best boaters in Indiana started off as co-anglers. I've never been a co-angler, but I know a lot of guys that were, and they're absolute sticks now. And they're still in the sport because guys didn't treat them like crap. Because why do you want to be part of a sport where you get treated like crap?
Yeah, well, you look at the pro series, and you have guys like Justin Lucas. He was a co. I mean, I believe, I'd have to go back and look, but I believe Scott Martin was even a co at one point. So, I mean, there's co-angler definitely has that feeder system, but there's also the financial impact of if you don't have enough participants in an organization, then the organization can't afford to do things. And I think people lose sight of that as well.
Yeah, and like it's got to the point where, and I fished a long time, and I fished on a much higher level than the BFLs and stuff. It's got to the point where it makes me not even want to fish sometimes, just because of, it seems like there's and I'm trying real hard not to get on my soapbox because I could. There's just a lack of etiquette. Guys cut you off, and then they're going to get the guys that's going to chime on and say, you don't own the water. No, you don't own the water, but it's about respect. If I'm fishing down a bank and somebody comes and cuts in 50 yards in front of me and starts fishing down the bank in front of me, it's freaking rude. And if you don't think it's rude, your mom and dad didn't raise you right. Bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I'm being what's the right word, Rob?
I'm not allowed to say those words, I thought.
yeah, what I'm being. But you know what I'm saying. It's like, man, it's like there's been lots of times when I believe that I could have won an event if I wanted to go in and be rude to somebody. And I remember I was fishing. I don't even know if you were, well, no, you wouldn't have been with me, Rob. I was fishing at Patoka, and I cut this guy off accidentally. And I swear to God, it was an accident. I thought he was leaving. And I pulled in on these stumps out offshore. There were like 3 of them. And man, he turned around and talked bad to me, give me all kinds of crap. And I didn't really even fight back. I just apologized and left because I didn't want to be known as that guy who did that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But a lot of these guys now, they don't care. And then I draw co-anglers, and Rob and I have had this conversation about stuff that was said to him, if he'll be honest, like the way some of these guys talk to co-anglers, I don't know why anybody would want to be one.
I almost quit after Lake of the Ozarks. Had a real bad run-in where I pretty much had a guy tell me that I'm not allowed to fish till he's done. And that he had paid his dues and he had paid his fees, and I was just there to watch. And I struggled.
I've had co-anglers tell me that they've had boaters. And look, it's not all boaters.
No,
not at all. Because to me, the funnest part about going and fishing tourneys is, for guys that don't know, Rob's been on my staff for years. Me and him, Mario, Konopaki. There's a whole bunch of us. We room together. And to me, the funnest part, now, I don't make my living fishing for money. The funnest part is the camaraderie. And I actually I enjoy at the ramp seeing guys that I only see at events. I never see them. Maybe we live 3 hours apart or an hour apart. I never see them. That part is that's, to me, that's what I go for. Is I like to see everybody, and I just can't see anybody just being a dick to somebody else just because they're in the back of their boat or they think they're a pro.
Yeah, let's be honest, we're regional fishermen. We're doing this for fun.
For fun.
I mean, we're not, I don't think anybody's I could be wrong, but I don't think anybody's making a living fishing BFLs. If they are, more power to them, but that's it should be about fun in the long run.
Yeah. I know a guy one time who had a limit of fish, a co-angler, and he had the wrong size limit, and he threw a whole limit back, right? And it was the funniest thing you ever saw, wasn't it, Matt Gibson?
Yeah, I did. I did hear something about that.
Yeah, and you know what? It was just all fun, wasn't it? I mean, Rob knows that guy too. It was just fun. We all laughed and teased and kidded him for like 2 years about it. So it's supposed to be about fun. Because some guys would have freaked out when they threw their whole limit back and found out that it wasn't a 15-inch limit. You know what I mean?
So Rob, you said that the boater did it too.
Oh yeah,
Who talked to and giving the wrong advice there?
Oh shoot! I'm sorry, Rob. I shouldn't have brought that up.
So I'm finding out that Phil knows the boater pretty well. So I'm wondering if I wasn't set up in that tournament. Not that it was me.
Yeah, we're guys that don't know. We should start a YouTube channel when we go fish these events when we're all staying in a house together. Because it's like brutal. Oh, no. Like you can't be in that group and get your feelings hurt because the only thing that's off limits is mom. Am I right, Rob?
And even then,
and your kids, mom and your kids. Everything else is fair game.
There's one person's mom that's fair game because she cooks them dinner every night. But
that's exactly right. You'd be talking about Mike Conopacki, wouldn't you?
I didn't say that. You did.
We all love his mom, actually.
Yeah.
She's got to be a saint. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So anyway, we got off subject. So what are your plans for the future, Rob? Are you going to start fishing as a boater or Rob? Yeah. Are you going to do the kayak circuits, you think, with Matt, or what are you thinking?
I'm enjoying fishing out of the kayaks. Okay, I'll be honest. So kayak fishing opens a whole new ball of worms for me because it's bodies of water that I've never seen, for the most part, because they go to a lot smaller venues. Some of them were when Indy League fishing. I think some of those lakes are in common, but of course I never fished those. So I might fish. I'm fairly confident on Eagle Creek that I could catch fish there. I don't know. Right now it's just fun. I'd like to see MLF change some things around to get co-anglers to want to fish again. Because I'd like to. I miss camaraderie. So I'll see Phil at IBS, but I don't see any of the other guys, and I've got a lot of grief from him because I won't be there.
Yeah.
And that's that is a lot of.
We had a lot of fun. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, there's never a dull moment.
Like we laugh till we cry. I'm telling you, it's like hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, dinner is getting 10 guys to go to dinner at the same time is it's.
Yeah.
And for people who don't know, like Rob's been my co-angler, he's been Mario's co-angler. Conopacki is a boater now, but he's been all of our co-anglers in the past. And like during the middle of the day, we might run into each other on the lake, or we're like, I'm sick of this guy. Get him out of my boat. We'll swap co-anglers and practice during the day and stuff. So we always have fun. Everybody's about like family.
Yeah. So that's a good point, Phil, that you brought up. The most important thing a co-angler needs to know is the size limit. That's huge.
Oh yeah. I was just teasing you. Yeah, you're right.
No, but you brought it's I fished the Buckeye division too, and I made a mistake last year again. Up on Erie, everything in Ohio was 12 inches except Erie. Erie's 14.
Right.
I had a limit, and I had one 15-inch skinny anorexic fish, and I caught a chunk that I looked at it. I said, it's got to be 14. I didn't think about it. Threw in the live well, weighed in. It was 13 3/4, and it cost me a check.
Oh,
so
they penalized you for that, did they?
Oh yeah, lost a pound.
Lost a pound for taking in a short one.
Yep.
Well, so look, you fished with 80 different boaters, maybe, right?
Yeah.
And I know. I'm not trying to steal the show. I know Rob, or I know Matt has a bunch of questions for you too. But like these new guys starting out and don't know what to expect. Like, what would you tell them? Like, what's the key thing in your opinion for catching fish behind some of these boaters? Because some of these guys, they don't leave anything to catch.
Pay attention. Boater, I really think it's about angles. Indiana State bait's a tube. I mean, it's a stupid tube is you're going to run into a stupid tube. Don't throw stupid tube. Throw something else. Try and pick apart different angles. Be patient. You just have a confidence bait and stick with it and ride it. Like I used to do that with a crankbait. And now I've had 7 elbow surgery, so now it's more of I'll crank if the bite's there. If it's not, I'll probably be flipping a jig or a beaver. You just have to.
You flip the big beaver or the little one?
The big beaver,
the full size.
Mm-hmm. Even on the river, was Kevin Mullins made the state team a couple years in a row on the river throwing a big dummy tube. I'm like, you're throwing a 4-inch tube or that big monster tube on the river for a 12-inch fish? It worked for him, so that's why I throw the big beaver, just thinking that it moves more water, makes it easier to find. I don't know.
Yeah.
What other advice do you have for guys that want to get into to co-angling? Like what are kind of the expectations, or what's the things to avoid, and what are the things to make sure that you do as a co-angler? Like a couple things I think of right off the bat, because I did some co-angling back. Oh, it's been a long time ago. But then I also fish team partners with a few guys. But one of the things I always try to be aware of is how much tackle I'm bringing.
Yeah.
And rods.
Yeah. So I used to carry the duffel bag style tackle box, and I probably had 100 pounds of tackle that I'd lug to a tournament. And I'd probably take like 6 or 7 rods. I pared it down so I carry 5 rods, and I've got a backpack, and it's not filled to the It's just the baits I know I'm going to fish, and I'll have different boxes for whether we're on the river or reservoir. Keep it simple, because you're not. I mean, you're probably going to fish 2 or 3 different rods, maybe. So don't take too much. If you're going to use dyes, use markers. I would not recommend. No faster way to piss off a boater than to stain their carpet with dye. So use markers. If you're a smoker, talk to the boater first. They can be. It's an expensive investment. They don't want to get their seats burned, the carpet burned. So discuss everything. Be respectful of the boater. You are a guest on their boat. Treat it like it was yours. And hopefully that means you're going to treat it well. If you don't know how to back a trailer down, let your boater know so they can get
That's
you
a
down.
big one right there, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's a real big
Absolutely.
one.
And there's no shame to it.
No, you got to learn sometime.
I know a guy who dented another guy's tailgate.
Are you serious?
Maybe. So, yeah, don't be afraid to say, hey, look, I'm not comfortable. A lot of these ramps here are not user friendly. Like we just put in at the high water ramp at Monroe the other day. And that thing, it's terrible.
It's not easy, is it?
No. So, yeah, but be respectful. Go to have fun. Understand that you probably won't catch a limit. It's going to be humbling. It's going to be frustrating. But so I'm 80 some boaters. I can count on one hand and have a couple fingers left over how many boaters I did not get along with. Most of them, I got a lot of great friends who are boaters. Made a lot of friends with Indiana and Ohio, and so yeah.
Yeah, that ratio is pretty good, Rob, when you think about it. A handful
Absolutely.
versus 80. I mean, that's a really good stat. I mean, that's a good ratio.
Yeah. And like I said, just talk to your boater before you get on the water about what their expectations of you as a co-angler, whether they want a net, whether they don't want a net. Ask if they want you to pick up ice in the morning, just little things like that. There's other ones, they might want you to pick up a cup of coffee.
I like it when they bring me a sandwich. Because some do, I've had guys bring me sandwiches look like they went to Subway the night before, but their wife made them or somebody,
Huh. I haven't gone that far.
Yeah,
and then always
offer for me, Rob.
Always offer money for gas. Always.
Yeah.
Some boaters will take it, some don't. But a lot of boaters say, "Well, I was going to be here anyway." Well, that's fine, but you can still offer to, their boats don't run; they're not free. Yeah. So, offer. Let them tell you, no, I don't want your money. So.
Yep. No, I think that's a really good list of things to kind of go through and talk through. Phil, what are kind of your expectations for a co-angler today? What do you look for them to communicate with you and all of that?
Yeah.
Kind of, what do you look for?
I usually don't tell them, and I know this is bad. I usually don't tell them what I'm going to be doing the night before, because some of them will run right in and tell their boater partner, what the bite is. But I always do say, hey, we're going to be fishing offshore, or we're going to be fishing shallow. So at
At
least
least
they
some
kind of know
idea.
what to bring. And then, like, I'm not one of those guys. I normally have my compartment behind the driver's seat is normally open, or I have very, very little in there. I can just get it and put it somewhere else. I really like it when they take their stuff out of those bags and put it in that compartment so we don't have to step over a big giant duffel bag all day. You know, sometimes, because I don't care what you bring. You can bring 10 rods. I'm not one of those guys that say you could have 3 rods or 4 rods or 5 rods, because I've actually witnessed that with myself with guys at the ramp. So my co-anglers, you can bring whatever you want. I don't care. You know, as long as we can get it in the boat, I'm cool with that. If you want to bring 10 rods, bring 10 rods.
Yeah.
You don't have to bring a live scope, your own live scope with me, because that's not what we're going to be doing. But I know that's caused a lot of controversy, I think.
Yeah.
But I really don't.
You've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, I just want to me, I think you both do better if you fish as a team. Like it
Yeah.
goes back to what I said about being real competitive and throwing over my line. Like, I think we do better if we don't fish against each other. We act like I think if you go out with the mindset that you're just two buddies going out to go fishing for the day, I honestly believe that you both are way ahead at the end of the day.
Yeah.
What do you
Agreed.
think about that? What do you think about that, Rob?
Absolutely. Like I said, you work as partners, trying to figure out how the bite's coming, and break down the bite together. And then I guess the biggest key you kind of touched on, Phil, is when I talked to my boater the night before, I asked him, like, say we're at Monroe, are we going up, or are we going slow side, or are we going main lake? Are we gonna fish offshore? I'm not gonna say, hey, are we going to Pine Grove? We're going to just spot,
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not going to ask that question, which leads to the part where I've seen it in 2-day tournaments where my second day boater has run into his co-angler the next day on the same spot.
Oh yeah, and that's way wrong.
That's
That's about as crappy as you could do somebody.
Yeah. I've had people ask me, hey, I heard you did this, I heard you that. And no, I will not tell anybody. Your reputation as a co-angler is important. You don't want people to go, you can't say anything around this guy because he's going to tell, you know.
Yeah, because it's a little community, isn't it? People talk.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I was at a regional down in Kentucky, and my first day boater did real well. I think it was in the top 10. And the next day, they were drawing the water down, so the second day boater fished shallow, and his fish were either on land or swam out to deep water. And he goes, "Hey, where'd you guys catch him yesterday?" I can't tell you that, but what I can tell you is we found a deep water bite in practice, and I can take you to those bluff walls, but I would never, take somebody to where we caught fish the day before, because that's just a no-no.
Yeah. And one big thing you meant that brings me back to what you said about not being able to back the vehicle. For God's sake, man, go learn how to net a fish. I could have won 3 or 4 more BFLs where I have literally had, and it was an accident, not on purpose, where co-anglers have knocked the fish off with the net. Like they knocked the fish off. Like they hooked the bait in the net and the fish ain't in the net and it comes off like 3 or 4 times. I mean, that's a lot of money. And it makes me nervous now. I had it happen to me 2 years ago at Monroe. I would have won, and it was a 5-pounder. And like, if I was going to be a co-angler, I would go with buddies and learn how to net a fish, because you're going to be put in a situation like you're going to be thrown into a situation where maybe the guy in the front has a really big fish and he wants you to net that fish. And to me, I knocked the fish off with the net before. Makes you feel horrible. I don't ever want to feel that way again. So that'd be the biggest piece of advice I could give co-anglers is learn how to net a fish.
What's the proper way, Phil, in your opinion, to
Well, you got to put the net in front of them. They can't swim backwards. And I was fishing an FLW series at Cumberland, and I would have made the top 10, and I still won like 12 grand. But I would have made the top 10, except my co-angler chased the fish around, reached underneath the boat with the net, trying to run a 3.5-pound spot, and he hooked the trailer hook to the spinnerbait in the net. and then tried to boat flip it with the fish hanging outside the net, whacked the graph on the console, the fish come off.
Oh,
And I missed the cut by like a pound and something to make the top 10. And then the guy that I had 2 years ago was a really nice guy, but obviously I didn't realize it. I guess maybe he had never netted a fish before. And I had an easy 5-pounder up beside the boat on a 1-ounce spinnerbait. So that 1-ounce spinnerbait's a lot of leverage, like a bait knocker in their mouth. And I said, don't chase it. Just relax, put it in the net, and I'll lead it in. Well, the fish turned away from the net, and it was coming at him. He could have got it. So when it started swimming away, he tried chasing it. And when he got the net under the fish part way, he like tried to flip it in the boat. So the fish is half on the rim of the net, half out, and it fell. And when it did, the bait come out of its mouth.
yeah.
I
Yeah, I
shot a
know.
really good finish, but I would have won. And both of those times it was the co-angler's fault. And I know they both felt terrible too. So learn how to net, and that way the boater ain't mad. You don't feel terrible, and everybody has more fun because hopefully you get to use the net a bunch when you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, most boaters say, "Hey, just hold the net in the water. I'll bring it to you." And
Yep.
that's
Exactly, yeah.
But just let them bring the fish to you. Yeah, don't chase it. Yeah.
When you chase it, it's a disaster, isn't it?
Yeah, I've had boaters do the same to me. It happens, it sucks.
I knocked the fish off at Lake Cumberland in another tourney. It was my fault, a big smallie. I knocked it off with the net. It was my fault. And you know what I was doing there? Trying to hold my rod with one hand and trying to net the fish with one hand, rather than just lay the rod down and net the fish. Yeah. My fault. And I felt terrible.
Yeah, I can tell you one of the most scary moments of my life was netting a 7-pound smallmouth at Lake Erie.
It makes you nervous, don't it?
My eyes were about like that big, and I was shaking. Let alone, and it was on a jerk bait, and the boater was he was animated to say the least. And I said, I'm just going to hold it here. You bring the fish to me, and thank God nothing happened there.
Yeah, and when you're the guy with the fish on, don't start hollering, "Oh, it's the biggest fish I ever saw. It's a giant. It's a monster." Don't. And then the guy with the net just gets more nervous. So
yeah, I was scared to death, and luckily I didn't mess that one up. Thank goodness, because that's the biggest smallmouth I've seen in my life, and that thing it looked like a hubcap in the water. I mean, that thing was just huge, and yeah, I was terrified there, and I think one of the key things there was just communication with the boater. Just talking with each other, not being that animated, trying to settle it down and in the moment and get through the moment together, I guess.
Oh, excuse me. Well, anybody that draws Rob for a co-angler has a pretty good co-angler.
I appreciate that.
We're
gonna have fun. We're gonna have fun. That's and that's what I tell the boys. We'll have fun. We may not catch them, but we'll have a fun day on the water.
Your best days on the water usually are when you laugh and have fun and you're relaxed, and when it's all tense and it's like I don't fish as well. It seems to me like always the best days are when you're just having fun.
Yeah,
let it kind of happen.
Let it kind of happen. Don't try to force it. Yeah. And that's not easy to do. I mean, it's real easy to try to force it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure is. What are your thoughts on catching fish on pre-fishing, Rob?
Oh, I can't believe you brought that up.
Oh. Well, that's a loaded question. So
I know.
There's one guy that I pre-fished with who will tell me, "We're not setting the hook today, Rob. We're not setting the hook." I said, "That's fine, Phil. We won't set the hook." Next thing you know, I'm shaking him off. He's like, "Why didn't you set the hook?" I said, "Well, you said not to." So I get confused with him, and then the world's best practice fisherman, Mike Konopacki, he sets the hook on everything,
catches them all.
Yeah, he does. And then I did that to him, and he got mad at me. I threw a bait and said, "Hey, I got bit." He's like, "No, you didn't." I'm like, "Oh yeah." So I said, "You want me to set the hook?" So I set the hook. It was probably about a 2.5 pounder down the river. He's like, "Why'd you do that?" So me, I if it's the day before the tournament, I wouldn't set the hook because there's just not. I mean, there's not a lot of bass in Indiana. Not
Man,
to
I struggle with that. Like I'll go out and I don't pre-fish for kayak tournaments nearly as much as I used to. And even when I was, it was maybe a day that I get on the water. But I
yeah.
can tell you anymore, like it's awfully hard not to set the hook on anything. Like because you're going and you're excited and you're out there fishing and you're doing all this stuff. And it's hard.
Yeah, check one or two and then go. You
Yeah.
know, if you find a fish in the area, great. We just did that last weekend. I fished a team tournament on Monroe, and we checked fish, and then we shook them off, and it was just it was one of those great days. We went back the next day, and they were there, and they were quality fish. I think we averaged probably close to almost 3 pounds of fish that we weighed in. So that's a quality bite for me.
Yeah, that's a hell of a bite.
And
Sure.
we wound up culling 3 times the last hour in maybe a 30-yard area. Just yeah. So had we set the hook on the day before,
Yeah.
that probably would have hurt us.
Yeah, that's always a tough one. That's always a tough one. Well,
Yeah, you had a great partner that day, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's dude. When he was, he's like all the rest of us. He's getting older, but there was a time when he was a stick.
Hey, he can
And
still
he
fish.
forgot how to fish.
Yeah, he listening to stories, about Monroe and what he used to do, and I was like, hearing the weights that used to come in, just
Yeah.
it's like, I think, Fish Limited, somebody had like 34 pounds. They did not get a check. I'm like, how does that happen?
Yeah,
You know?
and Freddie Felix and I one time were fishing a team tourney down there, and we were up in Moores Creek back in the heyday. And
Yeah.
Dale and his brother, and we're talking about Dale Brand. Dale's a great guy. Him and his brother Roy were like, they were really somebody you had to beat every freaking event. You knew you had to beat them. And then the Gillens won, and I think they had like 10 that weighed 51. And Dale and Roy had 10 that weighed like 49 or 50, and we had 10 that weighed 48. They all come within 200-yard stretch or break out there. And when you tell guys now who never experienced that, they think you're lying. But
Yeah.
it was that good back in the day.
Well, maybe if DNR will stock some bass instead of walleye or stripers, we can have that happen again. But I guess that's another subject.
it is.
Our DNR ain't going to do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I said it. It's the truth. They're not going to do anything.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough for sure.
I mean, it's pretty poor when the Federation has to buy bass to turn loose in its public waters. As much money as we pay for fishing license, and as much money as they take at the gate, they take in $7, I think, ain't it, to get a resident in the gate at the parks and stuff. A lot of states don't have any gate fees. I mean, where does all that money go?
Stripers, walleyes.
Indiana gets voted the worst state in the nation in Bassmaster. Every year when they do that, Indiana gets voted the worst. If I was a biologist here, I'd be so embarrassed. They don't even care.
What did you think about that list of the best lakes in Indiana that just came out?
Ain't that something? Wasn't Patoka the best?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just had a BFL down there, and it took 12 pounds to win was all.
Yeah, it's been a struggle. I fished 4 times there this year, 2 tournaments and 2 practice days, and I have 1 keeper in those 2 tournaments, and I caught 2 practicing out of the kayak, 2 keepers, and that's been it. That lake is tough.
Well, here's the thing about Indiana lakes. like I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on this, but like you say, you take Monroe. Like Monroe is high right now, really high. 11 feet and something. So when they're high, there's so many places them fish can go to get back into that you can't get a boat back in to get them. I mean, there's probably thousands of extra acres maybe flooded right now. Yeah. So if you think about it, over the years, most of the events when Monroe is high in the spring have been won in maybe 4 or 5 areas. Most of them. The bulk of them have been won in those same 4 or 5 little areas. If you're not in the top 20 in the draw in those, you're not going to get to fish in one of those 4 or 5 areas. So everybody else, and I know there's guys going to come on here and going to say that ain't true. I've been fishing down there for 50 years. There's a lot, like, like the roadbed up in Pine Grove, when the lake's high, below where there's a lot of these events are won like right there. And you can only fish a couple boats there, a boat or two there. If they had 3 times as many fish in the lake, maybe there would be a lot of other places, where the fish get big schools of fish up shallow. But
I did catch a lot of my specialty bass though the last 3 days at Monroe. So we've had some good recruitment classes. So we hopefully we get some more good keeper.
Yeah. How
We'll
little
see.
were they? Like, are they almost keepers or are they really little?
8-10 inches. So they got
Well, that's good. That means they spawned, huh?
Yeah, we've had some. That's what I'm saying. We've had some good spawns. So hopefully, the future's looking better.
Yeah, I just saw a thing. You guys probably seen it on Facebook. Was it Alabama dumping bass in somewhere?
Yeah.
One of the lakes down there. And then our
Yeah,
DNR
they're
says,
plenty upper Gunnersville.
Yeah, our DNR says stocking bass don't help. That's such baloney. If it don't help, why do other states that are known for bass fishing, why do they spend tens of thousands of dollars every year stocking bass if it don't help?
Well, every time I talk to DNR, they say it's because bass spawn and reproduce on their own. Okay, that's fine and dandy. So then why are you stocking channel cats? Channel cats spawn and reproduce on their own.
No kidding. Yeah. And then they'll put all these wipers and these stripers in the lakes. And look, I'm not against putting wipers and stripers in the lake. I'm not against stocking muskies and walleyes and salmon up north. I'm not against any of that. But why don't they stock bass? They stock all that other stuff, and our DNR won't stock bass. And bass fishermen spend a lot of money between tackles, sales tax on tackles, and tax on gas, and motels when they come to fish these events. The state gets a permit fee. They get so much per boat on the boat ramp for all these tournaments and stuff. A lot of freaking money, and they won't do anything. Never have, never will do anything to help the bass fishing in Indiana. Am I right?
And the 25 years I've been here, yeah.
But they spend thousands putting nets for walleyes down here in Brookville Lake, and then they milk them all. Half of them big ones they get in the net, they're killing these big walleyes that these guys like to catch. A lot of them die when they get in them gill nets. They milk them, and then they take them eggs and scatter them out all over the state. They do put some back in Brookville, but that costs a lot of money. And I'm not against stocking walleyes, not at all. I don't mean it that way. Like, walleye guys are entitled to good fishing just like bass guys, but I bet Indiana can't tell you the last time that they paid for bass that got stocked. I've contributed money. Jimmy Pickett, when he contributed money, lots and lots of guys. The Federation has that deal to contribute money, and then the fishermen have to go buy 8-10 inch bass to turn loose in our lakes. And that's just a bunch of crap.
Yeah, and there was Luke Foley with a tin cup who
yeah, thank God for them.
Yeah. They stock the ones I can catch. I appreciate it.
To my knowledge, Indiana doesn't even have a bass hatchery.
I don't know.
But Illinois, they put, was it 2 or 3 years ago, they put tens of thousands of bass in that, is it the Black River chain? Is that what they call it up there by Chicago? What's the one up by Chicago, that chain up there that they have a lot of tourneys on? Actually, they put hundreds of thousands of bass in there. Illinois did.
Yeah.
Because it gets so much pressure up there, I guess, trying to.
Yeah.
And the fact is that our fishing is not as good in Indiana now. The guys that say it is didn't fish back when it was good, because it's night and day different. And there's so many fishermen nowadays. Think about this since COVID. Like I remember when COVID was going on, you couldn't even go to the little bitty ramps at Brookville. You would get there at daylight and there would be nowhere for you to park, where so many people were off work, because of COVID. Well, look at all of those fish. Like, I saw a post on our Brookville Lake page yesterday of these guys, and they had a 3-pound bass in there they were taking home to eat. And I see all these guys like bass nowadays, and then there's going to be guys get on here and say, you're full of it, you're supposed to eat some of them, blah, blah, blah. We don't have big populations of bass in our lakes like they do other lakes.
Yeah, that's another touchy subject. I mean, if you're going to keep a bass, keep a bass. I'd rather you not, but they pay for the licenses too, so that's.
Oh, I probably just pissed some people off about the whole eating bass thing. But here's the thing. I hear guys say God put them here to eat. Well, I'm sure he did in the beginning, but there wasn't billions of people with a B in the world back then. And I think now that we all, if you enjoy fishing, and I like to eat fish too, and crappies and bluegills spawn a lot more. They're a lot more survival of eggs. When I want to eat fish, I catch crappies or bluegills. You know, I even like them better than wallies. I don't walleye. I don't go keep bass. And bass, if you look at the statistics, isn't it like in Indiana, don't they say maybe like 2 largemouth live to be 14 inches out of each nest?
Is that what it is?
It's like a really small amount, live to be 14 inches long. And well, there ain't that many nests at Brookville Lake or Monroe or Patoka. Even when you start looking around on perspective, like even on the smallies, like on these flats at Brookville, if you look at how many thousand acres of water there, and when these smallies are spawning on these flats down here, they ain't up there around stumps and bushes and willows where you can't see them. They're out on the flats next to a rock or something. A lot of them are 30, 40, 50 yards offshore. When you start looking with live scope on perspective, there's really not that many beds. I don't feel like that's very many for the amount of acreage that you have of water. And then guys run around and they yank them off the beds as fast as they can catch them, the whole spawn. If you think about it, a fish has got a really rough way to go to get to be 3 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, guys, we're wrapping up here. So, Rob, I give you the floor to thank anyone or some final words here before we wrap this episode up.
Well, I'd like to thank you guys for having me. Kind of caught me off guard. She want to talk to me as a co-angler. There's a lot better co-anglers than me.
No, you have some good perspectives on it. So,
I've put my hours in, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, as a co-angler, just remember, you're not a pro. You're there to have fun. You're there to learn. Be respectful. Do what you can to help out. Help your boater. Don't tear anything up. Have fun. You know, that's how I met Phil. Met him through Mario, but you know, and the friendships that you get, they'll last a lifetime. You know,
Yeah.
enjoy yourself and be a good steward to the sport, and don't be that guy.
Yeah.
Don't be that
For
guy.
people that don't know, Rob is one of our best pro staffers. He like helps at all the shows, and we're going to do shows all through the South this winter. We have a book. Rob's taking off work to go help. He wants to go do them shows.
Mhm.
Most guys don't want to do it. Rob loves it. He likes visiting with the other fishermen and talking to people like you know, with him. Like Rob's really dependable. You know, I mean, I'd like to have about 50 more just like him.
Yep.
No, one's enough. Trust me. Be careful what you ask for, Phil.
Yeah, you might end up being a regular on here, Rob. You never know.
Yeah.
Never know. If I can start catching fish, you know, who knows?
Well, dude, you've been posting a lot of nice pictures. I think you've caught more this year since you have your kayak than you ever caught, probably.
Yeah, it's I've always complained, you know, that as a co-angler it stinks because you never get to make the decisions.
Yeah.
So now I get to make decisions on the kayak, and there's days that I'm irritated with me because I didn't make the right decisions.
It's hard,
You know,
isn't it?
It's so yeah. Everybody thinks, oh, let them, you know, running a boat, oh, you get the first crack at everything. Well, that's true, but that doesn't mean there's going to be a fish there. You also have to there's a lot of decision making. So I think that's helped me in learning how to look at things from being on the front of the kayak and you know, having the first shot at everything. Well, if it makes that big a difference, then why there's still days I come home without catching a fish. It's like, well, I had the best shot at the first fish, and so be humble and appreciate the time on the water.
There we
My
go.
my prediction is you're going to be 10 times the fisherman at the end of this summer that you are now, because fishing is all about time on the water.
Yeah, and my 4-day work week helps.
Yeah.
Being able to get out on Fridays. So, but yeah, and thanks, Phil, for
Matt fishes 5-6 times a week, dude.
I wish it was like that.
Yeah,
Matt,
me
we
too.
gotta get to the we gotta get to the river sometime, Matt. We gotta make it happen.
Let's schedule that for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll even get Phil in a kayak, come down here and fish with us on the weekend.
And what's
We
that
wanna
biggest one they
definitely,
make?
definitely want to record that, huh?
Yeah.
What's that great big kayak they make now? The
The XTR.
yeah. Yeah.
What are you trying to say, Rob?
I don't want you to fall out, Phil. That's all I'm saying. Because
Hey,
we would
we
want to
do
laugh.
need to go up there and shoot some video of the three of us.
Come up.
Yeah.
We'll get it.
Yeah.
Like when the topwater bite's good, we go up there and catch them on prop baits and dog walkers and get some videos and get some reels and stuff.
Yep, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this episode of the podcast. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Rob, thank you for being on, buddy.
Thanks, guys.